I'm Ian Campbell with Alpha Capital. Along with me is my partner, Mark L. We are the 401k advisors on the plan. So if you need any assistance or any help with enrolling, filling out any of the information, or any other questions about 401k plan, feel free to reach out to us. We're going to be available via phone or email at any time in the future. And then the documents that we'll be reviewing today, there are a series of 3 of them. The first one being the online enrollment packet, the second, a PDF version of the enrollment, and then the third, an investment allocation guide. Part of our ongoing education advice will come out quarterly with the allocation guide and also newsletters and things like that pertaining to the 401k plan. So it's not intended to be a one and done. If there's anything that you have questions on, you can reach out to us at any time, as well as all the employees too.
Perfect.
So I'm going to start with the online enrollment packet. If you forget everything that we talk about today, the most important thing is this first page here. We're starting on the second page where it says, let's get started. This is in the body of the email that we'll be sending out over to you. It's going to that website link there and then hitting online enrollment. I've actually got the website pulled up here in another tab that I wanted to show you. This is the website link that you'll go to. You can bookmark it or favorite it. This will be used for all future logins. For the initial online enrollment, you'll click this little top left corner. It'll hit online enrollment, and then you'll type in that plan password. The plan password is on this second page right in the middle here. It's under, it's all capital letters, lock hold. And make sure you are putting that in there. It is case sensitive, so make sure you're typing that in. After you hit that, you'll hit next, and then be prompted to the guided steps. It repeats down here. It says follow the guided steps. Starting on pages 8 through 12 are the guided steps. I just showed you those first 2 where you'll go to that website, hit online enrollment, top left corner, then type in that plan password. And then the third is just typing in your contact information. You will be allowed to put in your username and password as you're going through these steps as well.
Okay.
One thing about halfway through this process, if you're not paying attention to the online enrollment step-by-step guide that sometimes hangs up folks, is there'll be a question where I'll say, what source of money do you want to pick for those investments? And just make sure you're clicking all sources of money when you're putting in that information or selecting that step. So all sources, and just hit next. For the purposes of the call today and webinar, we wanted to kind of relay over to the paper version of the enrollment process to go through the types of decisions that each of you will be faced with as you're completing the enrollment. So the first one is just contact information, all of your personal information, name, address, and so on. The one unique piece to each of you is going to be your date of hire. So make sure you're getting with either Dan or Jody and finding out that information about your date of hire there. Which brings us to a next, kind of towards the bottom section of the first page here of the enrollment form. This is the enrollment election. For those who do want to participate in the plan, you have 2 different contribution types, one being pre-tax or the second being Roth or after-tax. And the difference between the 2 is when the money is taxed. A pre-tax contribution is probably what most people are familiar with. You're going to be putting in monies today that you haven't paid taxes on. And then when you withdraw that money in retirement, that's when you would pay your effective tax rate. The opposite happens with a Roth or after-tax contribution. You're putting in money today that you've already paid taxes on. And then in retirement, when you withdraw the money, that's when you would not have to pay the taxes because you've already paid it on the beginning. So it's either you pay it on the beginning or pay it on the outbound in retirement. Depending on your tax bracket today and what you foresee tax rates or what you foresee your income to be in retirement, one may say, one might be better than the other. You could probably argue both points at any given time. We tend to see people that are younger or on a lower working income, then they would do Roth in most cases. And then folks that are older or in a higher income bracket, they would do pre-tax because they're looking for those deductions. There's not a perfect answer. The reason being is that we do not know what tax rates are going to be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even heck, 30 years from now. So it is somewhat of a best guess. You can adjust that at any time in the future as well. So if you are doing pre-tax for the next 6 months or next year or even 2 years or 3 years, whatever it may be, you can always switch it to Roth or vice versa from Roth to pre-tax. I wanted to pause. Does anybody have any questions on the differences between the 2, or does that make sense?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. So hopping over to the how much question, I personally feel that it's probably the most important thing. The 8%, the reason why that's there is the national average of all age groups, all industries, all states. Individuals are saving 8% of their income into their qualified retirement plans or 401k plans. A lot of studies and research has shown us that 10% is really that magic number that we want folks to be at, or from a goal standpoint, you should get to. If you're reading trade journals, research articles, Googling how much should I be saving in my 401k, it's anywhere between 10 and 15% is probably what the majority of that you'll be seeing. So use those two as kind of a watermark or a rule of thumb to get to. If you're considering doing something less than that, then you can consider maybe even contributing 1% more on years to come. So if you're starting out at say 5%, you're going to put in 5 that first year. After that anniversary hits, go up to 6, up to 7 the following year, 8, and so on, to try to get up to a bigger percentage. And just that increase of 1% has really hardly ever felt on your net take-home pay, but it's a great way to get up to that national average or even into that 10% number. You can put in another percentage over to that right-hand side for there, but I did want to go and talk about the one of the benefits here with participating in the plan is that there's a company match that's available to each of you. The company match is what's called a safe harbor match, and the total of it, or the maximum that you can receive, is a 4% match. And I'm going to state it a couple different ways just so everybody's clear. The company match, safe harbor match, is this. It's 100% on the first 3% that you put in, and then 50% on the next 2%, so 4 and 5. So if you put in 1, company match would be 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. If you put in 4, company match would be 3.5. If you put in 5, the company match would be 4. So in order to maximize the benefit of the company match, you would at least want to put in 5%, so you get that total of 4. If you do put in something greater than 5, the maximum you would receive is still 4%. I did want to go and clarify one thing. In the example, I'm just going to use 5% and that 4% company match. Let's say you have a $1,000 weekly gross paycheck. It's $1,000 that comes in. The government you haven't paid taxes on it yet, and you're going to do a 5% pre-tax contribution. So 5% of that $1,000 is $50. So $50 is going to come out of your paycheck. Your net take-home pay is probably not only going to drop down by about $30. It's not going to be by that full 50. So 50 is going to go into your account from you. The company match is going to be 4, or that $40 in that example. So a total of $90 is going into your investment account. And your net take-home pay is really only going to drop probably by about $30, give or take. So the power in saving with added company benefit of that company match is a great way to start saving for your retirement, and it's very important. So utilize those examples as trying to get into that mode of saving. I did want to go and clarify, if you are going to put in a pre-tax contribution or a Roth contribution, the company match is always going to go into a pre-tax bucket. So if you're doing that $50 going into pre-tax or $50 going into Roth, that's your contribution. The company match will always go into a pre-tax bucket. So just be mindful of that. If you're trying to hedge your bets on one or the other, that company match is going to go into pre-tax. So I'm going to pause there. Is there any questions about that as I explained it?
No.
Okay. So we're going to hop down to the investment piece of things. I know you guys have some knowledge on that space, but we wanted to briefly touch on this here. All of these individual investment choices are all institutional grade mutual funds. What that means to the individual investor is that they're all low cost. All of these funds too are top quartile from a performance standpoint and meet certain criteria that we evaluate as well. So part of Mark and I's role and responsibility as the advisors on this plan is to make sure this lineup is as great as it possibly can be. And then as we review these from quarter to quarter, we're going to be swapping them out if they don't meet certain criteria. So if a fund does not meet our evaluation criteria for consecutive quarters, we'll pull that fund out and replace it with a like kind fund in that same category. So we're always constantly monitoring this and ebbing and flowing those with those holdings if there's something that falls out of favor. So telling you you've got great funds and low cost options doesn't help with that final decision of investments. So part of our role is to help with education on the selection today, but into the future. So what I've done here is pulled up another document that's going to be in the email, and we call it our model asset allocation guide. And this is to help you with the decision today, and you can also follow it in quarters to come. We haven't quite gotten all of the Morningstar data yet for our newest quarter report. It should be coming out probably in the next week or so. So be on the lookout. The January form of this will be coming out, I would say probably towards the end of January, if not the first week of February. So what I've got here is the model asset allocation guide. All those funds are listed on that left-hand column. The asset class they represent is in that second column there, ticker symbols in the third. And then up in the top, the far right columns here, from conservative all the way to aggressive, are 5 risk tolerances. We've put together a recommended portfolio for you. If you want to be a little bit more hands-on, you would follow one of these columns based off of your risk tolerance. From an allocation standpoint, we tend to see folks that are in their 20s and 30s tend to be in that aggressive column. When you get into your 40s, tend to go into that moderate aggressive column from 65-35. And then in your nearing retirement, late 50s, in your 60s, we tend to see folks in that 50-50 moderate column. We rarely see people in that moderate conservative or conservative column unless they're in retirement and looking, for preservation there. So from an allocation standpoint, the ask of you is, if you're going to follow one of those columns, is that you just pay attention to the quarterly updates as they come out. So we'll have a new one come out in a couple weeks. You'll just mirror up that column with your investments online, make sure they match, and then you'd be off and going. If there are adjustments, it take you literally 2 minutes to make adjustments inside of the website in your 401k plan. So this is a hands-on method. The hands-off model is going to be a target date selection. And the way target date funds work is you would pick the year that you reach age 65, or find out what year it will be when you reach age 65. So do that little math equation there, and that's going to put you into one of these target date ranges. And that's going to be your most appropriate target date fund based off of your date of birth and your age. So that one fund would be your recommended choice, or at 100%. So you do the math, you'd write in 100% under that one fund there. So if that's 2045 was your fund, you'd go down here, find the 2045 fund, write 100% into it, and then go about your way. The way target date funds work are very similar to kind of that example that I mentioned up there above, from aggressive to moderate aggressive to more moderate. Is the 4 in blue that I've highlighted are the bigger the year. Just as a remembering thing is, the bigger the year, the more aggressive it will be. So the ones in blue are going to be 80 to 90% in equities or stocks. The next 4 towards the middle are going to be 60 to 70% in stocks or equities. And then the ones that are closer to the given year or the present year, it's going to be closer to about a 50-50 portfolio for that retirement age. So they start out aggressive in that kind of 2060 fund at 90% in equities, and then every 5 years they automatically de-risk over time. So it's appropriate for that 20-year-old, it's appropriate for the 30, 40-year-old, and so on, and it's appropriate if you hold it for that period of time as well. It de-risks automatically for you. So hands-on model up top, hands-off on the bottom. The target date funds are very popular. About 80% of the population in the country are saving in target date funds, just because they're more of that set it and forget it mentality. With the hands-off and hands-on option, those are just 2. For the third, you are free to do whatever else you would like as well. They are self-directed, so you have full discretion over picking and choosing your investments or allocation or combination of that over any period of time. There are no trading costs at all of going in and out of any of these funds. You can literally day trade it if you would like. We don't recommend it, but you could go out of any of these funds at any period of time into the future. You'll have access to the website, 24/7 access, and you can make those adjustments. Both Mark and I's contact information is in the email, but it's also on the bottom of these allocation guides. So feel free to reach out to us if you've got any questions on that. Okay. So just pause there. Is there any questions at all about the investment pieces?
Not on the investment pieces, but Ian, if we enroll online, do we also have to fill out the hard copy and send back to you?
No. So what would recommend it is, if everybody can do the online enrollment, that's best. It's a lot easier, it's safer, and it's more secure too, and it's faster. So if you could encourage everybody just to complete the online enrollment, that would be great. For the paper version, those are for those individuals who don't want to participate, or they want to, fill out the paper version. And I did, before we go on to the next, I did want to bring up one thing that we covered kind of towards the end, but I'll talk about it now as you brought that up, is the paper form would only really apply if everybody's completing the online enrollment who wants to enroll, that's fine. But for those who do not want to participate in the plan and they're eligible, they will want to fill out this form, the top section, and they'll select this "I elect not to contribute in the retirement plan at this time." That will actually serve as a waiver that they've been presented the benefit, and at that time they said no. If you do say no today or in this first enrollment period, it's not a no forever. You can then enter the plan at the beginning of the quarter every single year. So April, July, October, January, as those upcoming quarters. So you could say no now and then enter in July if you wanted, or say no now and enter next January if you wanted to. So quarterly enrollments for those windows that you can do it, but it is recommended that you collect a waiver for those folks that do not want to participate.
Okay. Okay.
And those don't need to be returned to us either. Those would just be kept for your records in an employee file.
Okay.
So going back, a quick signature on the last form. If you are filling this out, either the waiver or the paper version, if it's online, you'll be able to set up a username and password right there, and that account access will be instantly set up. The last two things I want to cover is the beneficiary designation form. If you're completing that online enrollment, you can fill out this information all electronically. If you're filling out the form, we'll kind of go through it just as an example. In the event that you pass away, the beneficiary forms elect to where that money goes. So make sure you're keeping this up to date. As an example, husband and wife couple, children, 2 of them. The spouse would be listed as primary beneficiary at 100%. The 2 children would be listed as 50% contingent beneficiaries each. Yes, you could split up the beneficiary pieces of 60-40, 70-30, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be equal percentages. If you like one kid better than the other, right? The last and final thing, what's that?
So we just won't tell them.
Exactly, they won't see the form, right?
Right.
The last thing on just the spousal consent, there is a note. This is an IRS rule. If you do have are legally married and your spouse, if you are skipping your spouse as being primary beneficiary, or call it first in line, if you're skipping them, they have to acknowledge it. And a witness notary also has to be present and acknowledging it as well. So don't want to create any arguments at the dinner table this week or weekend or whatever, but this is an IRS rule. And if that does apply to you, you have to physically fill out this paper form because a notary has to put their seal of approval and stamp on there as well.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last thing is just the plan account rollover. The monies that are coming into the plan are through payroll contributions. If you've got any old IRA or old 401k at an old company that you wanted to consolidate into the plan, you are eligible to do that if you participate in the plan. You can roll those balances over into it. It's a process from RPC, and Stephanie Wolf, the onboarding representative, will actually be assisting any employees that want to roll over monies into the plan. But it also works on the outbound. So if you're no longer working for the company and years to come, months to come, whatever it may be, the monies that you have in that account can also go out, either to an IRA, another 401k plan, cash it out, so on. And those options are available to you. So this form would work on the inbound, but also the outbound. If that does apply to you, reach out to us. We can get you in touch with Stephanie Wolf at RPC, and she can really help with doing all the heavy lifting of transitioning those monies or that account from that other company over to RPC. So a quick mention of that. That is really the entirety of our enrollment meeting here. I wanted to leave a little bit of room for some questions, about 5 minutes, to see if there's any questions that either of you have or any other topics you wanted to cover.
I don't think so. So we'll get everybody to enroll online, and then whoever does not want to enroll, we'll have them fill out the form, check the box, sign it, and then we'll just keep it here as our waiver that they were offered the plan.
Yep.
And then if somebody who either is a new employee or wants to join, then every quarter we will get in touch with you or with Stephanie.
Technically, with just the employee, the enrollment materials that I'm sending to you in this upcoming email, they can literally just be forwarded to them. Let's just say there's a new person that's eligible March, they're going to start April. You could just simply save that email in your records and say, here's all the 401k information. If you've got any questions about enrolling, reach out to Mark and Ian. So that would be something that we're going to be handling at a service standpoint ongoing, is all of the enrollments.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Do you have any questions, Claire?
I don't think so.
No, I think that gets us pretty current.
Awesome.
Ian, I talked to Vanguard yesterday. We're still waiting to terminate the old plan.
Yep.
And they said February 15th is the target date for that.
Okay. And that's fine. Really what's going to happen too is the new contributions and new money is just going to flow into the new plan. And then that old money that's over at that other custodian, that's going to come over on top and then, fill into those buckets basically. So whenever that happens, that's going to happen. We're kind of at the mercy of them on setting those transition dates up.
Sure. But we won't have any new contributions until after that February 15th date was what I was told by the attorney from guidance in setting up the Roth program.
Yeah, if you've gotten direction from them, that's fine. What we normally see is that people will just stop doing contributions to that other plan just to keep it clean and concise, and then start flowing the new contributions over to the new plan. Potentially, I would say that's probably what we see as most common, because you're not setting up a new plan. It's just you're just transitioning, record keepers or changing providers.
Well, I think we did set up a new plan.
Oh, well, I guess was it a business acquisition, if I remember serves me right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in that case, yeah, the old plan might be getting terminated, and then those new monies would come over, or those old monies would come over to the new plan. But since you guys are all under the new ownership and new plan, I would say that the advice that you were given on, that past stuff about contributions flowing to the old plan for a little bit longer, I would say that might be something that you want to question.
Yeah, we stopped making contributions a month and a half ago, or whenever we gave them notice. But as far as having new deposits from payroll coming into this account, it's going to be probably 2 or 3 weeks before that process starts.
Okay, that's more than fine. So I'm on the same page with that. I just didn't know if you guys had any contributions this year going into the old plan. That's what I wanted to triple check. Okay, that makes sense then. So from a timing standpoint, it's just getting with those employees and letting them know, okay, hey, this is going to be kind of our go live date is, mid-February. Let's have this all completed by the, the beginning of February, the, first couple of days in February. So give everybody about a week or so to complete the stuff.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks so much for your time today. And if there's anything that we can help with in the future, let us know. And then, as these couple weeks roll off, we'll be in touch as, you're getting everybody set up on that payroll piece, and, be aside to you with any questions that you've got about those contributions and funding the first payroll run.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.